So today on the Life Science Success Podcast, I get to welcome Debora Barton. Welcome, Debora.
Hey, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Excellent. So can you tell listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I'm a medical oncologist. I am from Brazil, where I did my whole training, my practice. I enrolled patients in clinical trials. I did the whole adventure back there. And after almost a decade of seeing patients, which was probably one of the richest experiences of my life, I made the move to industry, which brought me to the US in 2009. And in 2009, I came to Global and I did big pharma, medical affairs, clinical development. And the little biotech bug bit me. So then I moved to smaller and smaller and smaller. So now I'm on a very small biotech, very agile, very cutting edge science, extremely exciting.
You got to love the, just kind of the speed that a lot of different organizations, get to move, especially, once you've been in big pharma or have experienced even just a big company feel. It doesn't even necessarily need to be a pharma company. Just that, sort of big organization feel versus the, the smaller organizations that are moving super fast, hopefully.
I dare to say it feels like freedom, where you can make decisions and put them in action. And if needed, you can change course and adapt, because this is very needed in our field. So it's really liberating to work in a small company, although you lose the structure, right? You don't have all those people doing all those different things. You have to do it. You have to do it all.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I love it.
A little mix of all roles doesn't necessarily, hurt either, right?
Yeah.
So getting to have that broader experience is, it in a lot of ways is a big help. So today you're currently at Carisma, is that correct?
Carisma, yes.
Yeah, and so I've looked a little bit at their website and spent a little bit of time, kind of looking at the webpage. Can you talk about what Carisma does?
Yes, so Carisma is working with a new cell type. Everybody knows, but most of people have heard of CAR T cells for the treatment of a number of hematological malignancies. So what we are developing at Carisma is a different cell type and the same CAR technology. So we're doing CAR macrophages for the treatment of solid tumors. And solid tumors present a particular challenge to CAR T cells, which is what you're showing. And the CAR macrophages, they are able to overcome those challenges and getting to the tumor and transform the microenvironment, attract different immune cells, and create an immune memory.
Great. And as far as I understand, so CAR T primarily focuses in on blood cancers, where, what you guys are actually developing focuses much more on solid tumor, correct?
Correct. And the most important point is that the CAR T cells, the T cells, the way they work is that they have one target and they find their target and they kill that cell. Now, the issue with the solid tumor is that the cells are heterogeneous. So you have some cells with the target, some cells with low levels of that target, some cells with other targets. So a CAR T cell will kill a portion of the tumor cells, but not all of them. The CAR macrophage will kill those cells, and they will engulf those cells and learn all the different neoantigens that they have and teach the T cells to kill all of them. So that has all been proven in mouse models. Now we're making the jump to humans.
Yeah, so I mean, I did see the big news last week, so I'll bring up the press release as well. So
there you go.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about the press release and what specifically happened that was mentioned here?
Yes, so that's a very, very important time, not for Carisma, of course, but the whole field of cell therapy. This is the first time an engineered macrophage is being used in clinic, meaning in a human being. Previously, some other scientists have used non-engineered macrophages to try to treat cancers without success. So they were proven safe, but they didn't really kill the tumors. So this is a different approach, is the first ever in the world. And the important also point is that we were able to manufacture, the patient received it, things went per plan. So it's an incredible milestone of something very new and innovative.
So is the process the same as CAR T therapy? Are you removing a blood sample or a tumor sample from the patient and then somehow reprocessing it, or how do the macrophages wind up knowing essentially to target the solid tumor?
We teach them. Yes. So the patient will receive 4 doses of a subcutaneous injection of GCSF, which causes their bone marrow to produce more white blood cells. So after 4 injections, the patient will sit on an apheresis chair, and they will sit there for a few hours. Their blood will be filtrated, and their white blood cells, some of them, will be removed. They will still have enough white blood cells to fight infections and everything else. So the patient will be fine. Those cells will be shipped to California, and there we're going to select the cells that become macrophages. They're called monocytes. And we're going to insert the CAR so that it becomes the CAR macrophage. And the CAR is what is always looking for the target. So when that cell goes back to the patient, it will go looking for the target, and that macrophage will engulf that tumor cell that has the target.
It's just it's an amazing, I was telling somebody earlier today, to me, it almost sounds like science fiction. It's, you're just such an amazing thing that you and the team at Carisma are working on. And I of course, wish you all the success, with this. You're also doing some great work with Tigerlily as well, right? So you just recently announced that you were made a part of their board. Is that correct?
It's correct. Yes. I'm honored to be there.
And can you tell us a little bit about, so what is Tigerlily? What do they do?
So Tigerlily is a national foundation that provides education, awareness, advocacy, and support for young patients with breast cancer. And importantly, patients of all backgrounds, including the ones at higher risk of health disparities. So the founder of Tigerlily is a very inspirational person, Maima Carmo. And she had breast cancer at a very young age. She had a daughter of 3 years old at that time. And as she roughly navigated through the journey of having that cancer and having to find how to be treated, she figured out that nobody else should go through that with so many difficulties. And she decided to turn her difficulties into a tool for other patients to take advantage of.
Such important work, and just having somebody that can help with that communication, overall with the with the process, and helping somebody through that from the patient perspective is important. So I would imagine that a lot of the work that they do is around sort of conveying things to patients. Is that, do I understand it correctly?
Yeah, so there's a vast array of activities that they perform in support of all cancer patients, particularly the younger ones. So there are well-being videos and sessions. For example, there's a lot of information on cancer, on clinical trials, on what do they need to do to go through efficiently and not lose precious time that sometimes cancer patients lose because they just don't know where to go and what to do. So it's really a very practical toolkit for cancer patients.
That's very, very important. Both my sister and my father both had breast cancer. We would always tell the story that he's part of the 1%. We would say, what makes you unique? The one thing that would make him unique is that he had breast cancer as a man, but they do get breast cancer, as we understood through his trial and tribulation through that. But as you said, I mean, their number one frustration with both of them was just understanding the process, not ever having been a cancer patient previously. And
exactly.
So it sounds like very important work that they do.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about you for a minute. So one of the things that you say on your LinkedIn profile is that, your goal in life is to improve and prolong the cancer patient's journey. So what do you mean by that statement? And, how has your work contributed to that?
Yeah, so that's been my inspiration for basically half of my life. I always wanted to be a doctor, and specifically, I always wanted to be an oncologist. And that's because I didn't understand why a cancer comes up in the body and it kills somebody, when we should be able to open with a surgery, remove it, and it should be fine. That's me as a toddler thinking. So I went to med school and I went to oncology, and I learned the human body is fascinating and how it works and how it doesn't work. So always intrigued with cancer and how to make it go away and make the patients have a better life. So I divide my experience in two. The first very important piece is when I had a patient in front of me. And I did that for almost a decade. And it's so inspiring and so fulfilling to be able to work with the patient through that journey and make sure that not only they get the treatment, but they get the comfort and they get information. And, as much as I can do to facilitate that journey and to make it long and pleasant, right?
Right.
So that was one very important part of my oncology life. The other part in pharma, it changes the scale, right? Because now I don't see patients anymore. That was a very difficult decision for me to make, to stop seeing patients when I moved to the US. But it really paid off. All my years in medical affairs and clinical development, I believe the apex, the summit, was when my team was able to turn around a complete response letter from the FDA on a submission with a drug that was stellar. And we were able to work around and make it proper for resubmission. And currently that drug is approved to be used in the US and in Europe.
That's excellent.
And with that, I believe I'm touching many more patients indirectly and improving their journey. So, and that's how I plan to continue working with innovation and new therapies and developing them in a way that is regulatorily acceptable and commercially viable, right? So we can actually go to patients in an efficient way.
Yeah, so it's interesting to me, the story that you tell, because I've asked on this very podcast before that same question. What happens whenever, the drug that you're working on, or, who knows, maybe it's a technology that you're working on. Let's say that it's, for whatever reason, it doesn't get approved. What happens then? And if it was truly a more beneficial therapy at the end of the day for the patients, obviously you'd want it to make it to market, but in some cases it's probably very difficult to get the stars to align to make that happen.
Yeah.
So it's amazing work that you do, for sure, and it sounds like it does touch an awful lot of patients as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So I also understand that you do some work as well for the American Cancer Society. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
So what do you do with them?
So the American Cancer Society, they are basically, they work with voluntary work, and they have different sections. I live in New Jersey. I joined the Manhattan chapter of the ACS board. I was working in Manhattan at the time, so I was there very frequently. And it's an amazing group of people of different backgrounds, of music, video games, healthcare, or cancer survivors that we meet on a frequent basis to really discuss how to bring awareness, how to bring support to the American Cancer Society and the efforts that they are running. So I have a preferred. So the ACS supports something called the Hope Lodge. The Hope Lodge is a place where cancer patients go when the care that they're receiving is far from home.
Oh.
They can stay there for free. They don't need to worry about those costs in that moment in life where they have to worry about so many things. And they can just focus on healing and going to their treatment, and at the end, going back home. So there's so many things that the ACS develops in support of patients and in support of clinical research. And I'm honored to be part of it.
That's amazing. And it sounds to me a bit like Ronald McDonald House, I know, does the same thing for children.
Yeah.
When the parents are far away from home at a children's hospital. It does sound like amazing work, and just great things to have, just get the ability to contribute to as well.
Exactly.
So excellent. And we talked a little bit before we joined on the podcast, a little bit about, COVID vaccines and things like that. I guess I have, a couple different questions. One, with regards to the work that you're doing with Carisma, have you seen any sort of impact in the work that you do currently with Carisma because of COVID?
Yes. Unfortunately, in the beginning of the pandemic, as everybody was trying to figure out how to proceed with life and with work, things deaccelerated a little bit. And all things, including patients going to the hospital to do their checkups, including clinical trial bureaucracy that needs to be cleared before a clinical trial starts. So a year ago, more or less, things really deaccelerated. But then people started to get the gist of the dynamics of working from home and making it happen. So now I can say that we're back full swing, and I cannot say there's no impact, but it's very minimum at this point.
That's good. That's good. And then my understanding as well is that your family's been vaccinated, which is a great thing.
Yes.
So you and your husband, and then your children as well. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So because I work with clinical trials and I am an advocate for clinical trials, and I believe the future of every field of medicine belongs in clinical trials, when the vaccines started to come up and it was clear that the rollout wouldn't be as fast as needed, and the needed is everybody being vaccinated as soon as possible, I started looking for clinical trials. So I found a number of them, and I found one close to home where they were enrolling kids. And so it was a clinical trial of the Pfizer vaccine, and they were finally enrolled, and they received their 2 doses in a clinical trial. So I'm proud of them, of accepting, signing the informed consent form and doing the blood draws and everything else. Contributing to science and being protected.
So what do they think about that? I mean, what did your kids think about being a part of a clinical trial whenever they see you and, what you do? I mean, it's amazing work. And then now all of a sudden they get to be a part of something new and exciting too.
Yeah, and I've been working from home for a year, so they're kind of experts at this point on what I do and CAR macrophages, and they can talk about it. So they're also advocates of clinical trial, and I'm super proud of them.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Well, there are 3 questions that I like to ask every guest. So what inspires you?
What inspires me? So this is a work-related podcast. So I'm going to say cancer patients are my inspiration. Every day I wake up and I think, what else can we do? Because what we are doing is not enough. There is more. We have to be able to do more. We have to be more efficient. We have to go faster. We have to find out new solutions. So cancer patients are my inspiration. On a personal note, it's love. I think everybody is here in this world to find love and to be loved. And currently the world is in a weird spot. Yeah. And there's a lot of hate. And this is just counterproductive in every level. So love inspires me.
Yeah, it is important. And I mean, COVID has had a lot of impacts, and just kind of naturally where we were even before COVID was not necessarily a great spot. And then now, given the isolation and things like that, I know, my family certainly has struggled through it. And, we've done things to constantly reach out to family members, but, it's hard to convey that love without the close contact too. So thank you for that. What concerns you?
What concerns me are inefficiencies and unconscious biases. And those 2 together can really delay important actions. Again, going back to a cancer patient, and things that don't happen fast enough. Maybe opportunities of, for example, joining a clinical trial that were not spoken about because of some inefficiency or some internal bias. And people are just kept from really life-changing opportunities that they will never know that they were not exposed to. That concerns me.
Yes, in terms of unconscious bias, if I hear you right, it could be, people just getting used to whatever therapies there are that are normal. Is that what you mean?
Is that one, and that is definitely one important one, but also there are there are studies about certain populations who are not enrolled in clinical trials, and they don't have the same access to clinical trials to begin with, while the clinical trial has no restriction. So they should be able to join. They should at least be able to learn about it and say yes or no, I don't want to join.
I understand. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. And what excites you?
I'm very excited. So it's easy to excite me. But importantly, two things when they go together is magic. One is innovation, and the other one is collaboration. When you have innovation and a talented group of people who really collaborate and work together, there's no stop. That's extremely exciting. And I'm very happy to be very lucky to be where I am today, where I can see innovation and collaboration and magic is happening.
That's excellent. And so, I would assume that that you're seeing it under the roof of Carisma for sure. And, I would hope that you're seeing the same things at Tigerlily as well as the American Cancer Society as well. So, yeah, excellent answer. So thank you very much, Debora Barton, for being a guest on the podcast. I greatly appreciate you spending time with me, and thanks a lot for being here.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome.